Hello, my name is Trisha. I am, I just do a lot of arts and crafts. I've grown up doing it. Started off when I was young. My parents, or my dad owns a sewing and vacuum machine store. He fixes sewing machines. My mom teaches sewing. And so grew up in my dad's shop and then transferred over to my mom when she started her store. When I was in high school, I helped teach sewing. In college, I did a lot of sewing and costume stuff. Um, and then I got into other things, and now I just do things around the house. And so right now, I'm kind of more so in the I just want to reuse things. We've gotten into a lot of like throwaway culture and whatnot, and I love that my dad fixes sewing machines, and I think we need to get back into like fixing things or figuring out how to reuse something. So I figured out how to take a bottle and turn it into a self-watering planter. And so that's what I'm going to be teaching you today. So a few things that you need, obviously a glass bottle. You don't necessarily need goggles. Nothing's going to be really flying. When you do sand things, there might be, when you're sanding, you should be putting water on it so that it more so turns into like a paste and it's not going to be like all over the place. I just wear big glasses, so it like kind of acts as my goggles just to be safe, but nothing, it's not super dangerous or anything. What else? The glass bottle cutter. I got one off of Amazon. It was like maybe $20. This is it here. Comes with a bunch of rubber bands. I took some, I kind of like, it came with these rubber bands. I like these. These are from like asparagus or vegetables. This is the glass cutter right here. These rotate, obviously. This is the blade right here. And then this, you can adjust this to whatever you want. Through my research, I've also learned that you should be using cutting oil. I use sewing machine oil because it's what I have. And that is this. I don't know if like olive oil or something like that might do. Maybe. I'm not entirely sure. Or WD-40. I'm not entirely sure. What else? Cutting oil, 2 rubber bands, water, ice. I put a glass bowl over here. I didn't fill it up. We're not going to actually cut it on. Oh, you can't see. We're not going to cut it on camera because it does take some time, but I will explain how to do it. I did like a dress rehearsal and that was taking like a half an hour for it to cut. And I was like, I can't do this on video. But I will show you. What else? To sand it down, I got these diamond sharpening stones. They are metal. I have 400 grit, 600, 800, 1200, and 1000 grit here. I mainly use the 400 and 600, sometimes the 800. As you can tell, it's a little rusty. As it goes up in grit, it just gets smoother. So I like to use the rougher one just to like really just sand it down. And then, sorry, I said ice water. I have tall bowl and then a pot to boil water. Once you, or actually also need, so I use, this is the stuff that you use like on the bottom of a hanging planter. I use this at the bottom, but you can also use a coffee filter if you want to find something around the house. And then last thing to make the self-watering planter, there's just cut and string. You can also, if you have like one of those mops with a bunch of strings, you can also just cut one of those off too. And then to design it, you need gloves, a little paintbrush. Where's my, I use this to etch into the glass. Where's that? There it is. And then I use Rub and Buff gold leaf to make this design. Might be it. Pretty sure that's it. Okay, so let's start with your glass bottle. First, obviously, you want to take off the label. I do use like vegetable oil to really get off all of the stickiness, and then I rub it down with rubbing alcohol. I've obviously already done that here. And then from there, you want to measure. So if you're looking at this, you really want to measure where you think this is going to hit here, so where it starts to curve. I don't like to use measuring tapes, mainly because I can't find them, but this works.
Trisha, can you explain how do you choose the bottle? Like, does it have to be a specific kind of bottle, glass, anything like that?
Very great question. So usually try to find a bottle with a short neck, because if it's a long neck, this is an example actually. I cut this one and she's thick. I have found that I find more success with the thicker bottles. And yeah, this has a long neck, so this obviously didn't work. I guess I could, if I wanted to do the planter, I guess I could still do it like that. Yeah, so great question. Find a shorter neck and thicker glasses better. So this is actually a kombucha bottle. But I have also, there's this kombucha bottle too that you can use. This is a short neck. And then it doesn't, so sometimes wine, oh, I forgot to grab my wine bottles, but that's okay. You know how wine bottles, like at the bottom, it has that like hump that can get in the way as well. So you just have to account for that, especially when you're measuring this. So what I'll usually do is I'll take my piece of paper and I'll kind of usually eyeball it and mark it. So you could take, obviously a measuring tape might be better, but that's what I do there. And then I line this up. And then I do like to give myself some extra room too, because at the bottom, that string is going, you want that string to be able to come out. And then if you have to take into account if this does that hump thing, if this does it, if you know what I'm talking about. Ooh. How this goes in. Okay, so I'm giving it some extra room there so you can see what I was looking at. See how I kind of, it's hard to see on the camera, but I did kind of give it some extra room. I'm also going to just measure because I've done this before. Yep, perfect. Okay. Okay, so when you do this, you want to make sure that you're doing a steady line. And you also don't want to go over a line that you already did. So this is called scoring the glass. And when you score, if you go over the line that you have already scored, that's when it starts to, when it does eventually break, it'll spider there. And you also want to make sure that when you're doing this, it's one continuous line and you're not, when you get back to the original line, you don't want to go like that. Because again, that's when it can spider. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it this way and I'm going to push it down. And I'm just going to try to keep it, I almost forgot. Keep it consistent. This is when the cutting oil comes in. So I'm just going to put a little dot on my blade right here. So I got to clean all the way around. Okay. So now this is done. By the way, it doesn't matter because I already told you about the diamond things. It comes with this paper. This is for cutting glass, and then it comes with like sandpaper, which I don't really know why it comes with sandpaper because you're going to get it wet and then it just disintegrates. So you have extra sandpaper for another project, I guess. From there, you have to put the two, this is where the rubber bands come in. So you want to put two rubber bands, one on each side of the, try that again. One on each side of the score line. Again, I personally like these more because I feel like they stay. These roll over the place, which you can do, but. Now, if I was cutting this on camera, I probably would have had my water boiling, or at least heated up right now. Bring it up to a boil. So the heat of the water, I have noticed, obviously, really what goes into how this breaks. Because if you try to speed it up, it could break. I've actually, not often, but every once in a while, the bottom will pop off instead of where I scored, which is strange, but sometimes it's because I'm trying to do it quickly. And so you're going to bring the water up to a boil and then turn it off. You might be able to keep it at like a slow simmer or like a low simmer where it has a few bubbles to it, but you really don't want it any hotter than that. And what you're going to do is just, demonstrate quickly. Dunk it in the hot water for like a few seconds. Can you see me? Sorry. Oh, jeez. Okay. Put it in the cold water. And then you really just keep going back and forth. And you'll hear it start to like split a little bit. And then eventually, and also, the only scare, I know it can sound scary. The only scary part is that when you lift it, usually it's out of the cold water is when it happens. You lift it out of the cold water and it just drops. And if you're lifting and moving, then it can drop and shatter. So you do want to be careful when you are lifting, put your hand under so you just catch it real fast. That can be the only scary part. It does every once in a while, it'll like jump scare me, but only because like it just drops, but it's nothing crazy. A lot of times it'll just happen in the water. And every once in a while it can break into several pieces. That actually happened to this guy. This is my basil. This is basil, my basil plant. She has a design on her right now. We're gonna paint her later, but her bottom broke. But I liked how big she was, so I actually supplemented it with a different bottom. So she's a little mix match, but she's cute. So yeah, we'll get back to her a little later. So yeah, that is pretty much how you cut her. Do
Is
we
there any
have, sure.
Yeah, is there any risk of it falling off in the hot water? Does that ever happen to you?
So yes, that has happened as well. And when that does happen, I just grab tongs and pull that out. That's happened maybe twice. For the most part, I find it with the cold water. For some reason, when it goes from the hot to the cold, I find it more often in the cold water, but it has happened in the hot water. And again, I'll just like, if the burner is on, I'll turn it off real fast and grab tongs and grab it real fast. But that's, yeah, that's it. Any other questions that I might not have covered? No.
I
All right.
guess I do have a question. A
Sure.
little bit earlier when you were making the measurement, am I to understand that you were trying to measure, like, you were measuring the slope to the slope, and then you were just making sure that you had enough room on the other end so that it sat in the water?
Yes. So I gave it a little bit of extra room because at the bottom you have, she looks gross, but you have your rope that will sit, and you can't really see this because I matted it out. This one I didn't mat out, and I actually didn't put the rope long enough on this one so that she sits in the water, the rope. So I did give, this one has a lot of extra room because it wasn't originally supposed to have this bottom. But I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect either because at the end of the day, the rope just has to be in the water to pull the water up.
Is there any like risk or limitation of like how high or low you make the cut on the bottle, like in terms of like success? Like if you're maybe making any other thing, like if you're making the cut, like if you cut it too high or too low, is it gonna?
I don't think so. I haven't noticed any risk or anything, and with my research, I haven't found anything.
Okay.
There is a way of cutting a glass bottle where, and this I find is too much for me, and I'm like, I'm not going to try that. But people have grabbed like a string and they put that in like, I don't know if it's alcohol or something, and they light it on fire, and that's how they get it hot, and then they put it in ice water. I don't recommend doing that. That I feel is unsafe. But as far as like where to cut, I don't think that necessarily makes a difference. The one I have tried to do a score line on like a neck, like for something like this, for instance, I wanted to see if I could do a score line down here so that I could still stick this in here, but I can't with this cutting thing. I can't get it close enough to it. I do have one of these guys that came with it, which is basically the same blade. It's just I need to figure out how to support this.
Hold it steady.
Right, yeah. If that's what you were thinking of, like cutting it like on the neck type of thing. Any other questions before I move on? All right, so I did cut a glass bottle that we're going to sand down today ahead of time. She was not a kombucha bottle. She was from coffee. And she cut perfectly. I cut her the same time that I cut this one. Jesus, so many bottles. Okay, I cut them at the same time. This one, obviously, the bottom didn't work out, and this one worked out perfectly. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. Like this one's like perfect. And this is a little bit thicker, I would say, than this one, so maybe it was a little bit hot. The other thing that was different, not between these two, but different compared to when I like cut these usually, is that this time around I did it with a cast iron pot, which I don't normally do. I normally do it with that stainless steel pot, but the cast iron I think might have gotten too hot, which is why I think this one, the bottom kind of broke in more than one piece. But again, it wasn't like, it didn't shatter. There was no like explosion or anything. It just broke in a not even spot, and then when it fell, it broke in like 4 different pieces. So I just picked it up. I also would recommend I do mine in the sink usually, which I don't necessarily recommend going like across, but if you have to, if you know what I mean, like there's a floor here. I don't recommend that because I don't want it to fall on the floor, and that has not happened to me. It usually, like when it does break, it usually does it like right above the water, or I just catch it. So I just keep my hand under it if anything. Yeah. All right, so this guy is cut. We are going to sand her down, and I might have to mute myself because it's an unpleasant sound when I sand it. What I'll do is I'll put like 2 paper towels down. I'll wet it. I'm going to use the 400 grit. I'm going to wet that, and then I'm going to wet this. So actually, I do 2 things for sanding. So I do the stone, the diamond grit, and then my mom actually got me something. It's a micro polishing pen, and I use this on the inside part. So the inside right here, just so that's not sharp, which it's not like sharp enough. I don't think it's gonna like do anything to me, but I like to just make sure that it's all soft. So I'll show you that in a moment. Let me first start with this. So first I'm gonna do like the outside edges, and then I'll do like on top.
Is there any concern about glass particles during this process? Like, do you wear a mask at all?
So I probably should wear a mask. When I'm doing it, you can kind of see like it makes a paste. That's why I wet it so that it like makes a paste. I have thought about the particles. I just don't let it dry, basically.
I noticed you wet the paper towel and then put the diamond plate on the paper towel. Is that just to keep it from moving around, or why the wet base?
I That keeps it from moving. Okay. So this could probably use a little bit more, but I'm not going to sit here and make you guys sit through that. This one I had already gotten a jump start on just to make it good, like so that you guys didn't have to sit through all of it, but you did kind of see a little bit of it. And I've been doing this for a little while now. I haven't found any like dust from it, to kind of answer your question. Kind of see how that's a little bit more rounded and it's a little bit more matte. That's from the sanding. I am going to show you the inside, like how I sand down the inside as well. So where's it? I really choose any one of these. I'm just gonna, there's a whole slew of them. I'm just gonna choose one. Like that as well.
I think I missed, is that battery operated?
This one is, yeah.
Okay.
This is only like $20 off of Amazon. And I actually use this to, you can use it on like wood and whatnot too, if you wanted to get it for like multiple uses. Now this inside part, I mean, it's not like absolutely necessary. I just like to make sure that all of the edges are just softer.
Do the sharpening stones, like, stay good for a while, or do you find that you wear them down over use?
They do wear down over use. I haven't found, I don't think you're going to necessarily find like a sharpening stone that's going to not wear down. But I have found that they do kind of wear down. I've had these since maybe not longer than that. Maybe like in the summer, beginning of summer, maybe. And I've been using them kind of consistently. I will say that doing this on the inside is better. Like it's helps this sit better. When you go to do that, I do like making sure this one is like really in there so that that sits a little bit better. Okay, I'm not gonna go further with that. I'm gonna go with, we're gonna do this. Okay, so the next part is I'm gonna do this with this stuff. You can also use a coffee filter. Put this away. But this is for the bottom so that the soil doesn't go down into the water. So this is going to be kind of like a stopper, I guess you can say. Oh, when you do sanding, I don't know if you noticed, but like on my plant here, she has a divot. She didn't get cut completely clean, and that will happen sometimes. So I will definitely use that tool on these type of divots here. So much darkness. There you go. You kind of see it. To get any like sharp edges or anything in there. But I kind of like when they have, because she looks like antique-y, because I decorated her and the little pattern keeps going. I kind of like it. It gives the character. I'm going to use this guy. Now I am tracing the outside of the bottle, but when I cut it, I'll just make the cut on the inside of the, oh, I need scissors. On the inside of the circle. Just so that it's a little bit smaller. And then of course, once you make the cut, you can make modifications if you need to make it smaller. That's going to sit perfect. Okay. Once that's cut, I'll just cut a small hole in the middle. I don't know if these scissors are. Okay. I like to feed this through before cutting this. And I definitely recommend feeding it through first to kind of measure how much. See, like now that's too much rope. I don't know if you can see, but it definitely folded up on itself. Cut her shadow. Okay. Oh, I didn't think this through. Definitely gonna cut too much, but so the excess on the side with the knot, you can cut that off. I usually do. I don't usually keep this in there. So it should like this, and then it's knotted on that side. So technically, you can stop right here. And then you have a self-watering planter. You just put the soil on top, water on the bottom, and then whatever seeds you want. Basil, I grew from seed. She started in September. She didn't do well for a minute because she didn't have the right sunlight. But after the grow light, she's doing a lot better. So basil actually does really well in the self-watering planter. But I am going to show you how to decorate her. So basil already has, I have a Cricut, which I create a design, and then I had already went ahead and cut the design out. I weeded it. I use a, what is this called? A removable vinyl. I just have one from Scan and Cut that someone gave me. Because we're not going to keep this on there. You can probably keep this on here. I like to etch it in. So that will, I'm going to do one etched, and I'm going to do the other one etched, but I'm also going to put the rub and buff on it, which will make it gold. I like when it has this gold look to it. So this is the gold. This is when it's like etched. If you don't have removable vinyl, you can probably just do some painter's tape. This one I had already weeded, and I went ahead and put some transfer tape on it. Now I did make a small mistake because this is the same size as this one. There's a little seam line there, which I don't normally, usually I'm able to make it seamlessly go through, but that didn't happen this time. So we're just gonna kind of wing it. This is just teaching you how I do it. I look for the seam on the glass and I line that up to the design. I'm just going to cut some paper off so that the transfer tape is a little bit more. Let's do this side instead. So the transfer tape is a little bit more present, and then that way it'll stick to the bottle. So this is how I do it. I make sure that sticks, and then when I wrap it around, I also make sure that it's going to lay straight. Oh, maybe this one will work better. Oh, this might be perfect actually. Doesn't look like there's going to be a seam line. Great, great. So now that I have it all the way around, I start taking off the transfer tape here. So I'll peel it back a little bit. I'm going to take an X-Acto blade. Well, you don't actually have to do an X-Acto blade. You could honestly just rip it off. I'm just going to do this right now for convenience. Just cut a little piece off. So I have a little piece on there, and I'm going to take this off. I have it overlapping right now. I'm going to undo a little bit of this. Take this off. Okay. Now this should be easy. From here, I'm just going to swipe it around. It didn't go on as even as I wanted it to. That seam kind of came down. We started right, and then it went off the edge, and then it didn't line up, but that's okay. Now I'm going to peel off the transfer tape. Actually, so I would peel off the transfer tape, but we are actually running out of time. So from here, I would peel off the transfer tape, and then you are basically ended up with this. So I'm just going to switch over to this guy since he's already pretty much done. I'm going to show you this. This is where I grab the gloves. Has anyone used Armor etching paste?
I don't know if I've used that paste, but I did glass etching in high school. It's been a very long time.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
yeah, I remember that we did like a vinyl decal and then just actually cut shapes out with an X-Acto knife. And then we were just put etching cream over the shapes that we cut out. So it was very
Okay.
basic, but cool.
So kind of similar. All right. So this is actually the first time that I've done it with a plant in it. So I do have to be careful. Actually, I'll probably just dunk it in there. Was it similar to this where you just kind of paint the, so I'm just painting it in here, the paste that you used?
Yeah, super similar. Similar looking bottle.
Oh,
I just don't recognize the brand.
okay. When you do use this, I would definitely recommend like keep moving it around, because I've noticed if I just do like a layer, you know what I should have done? That's okay. If I just do a layer, it will sometimes be a little bit spotty. So I've noticed that I should like keep moving it around until it's like, you know, for sure that it's reached every nook and cranny, especially if you're doing something like this where there's different like a lot of different spots and cuts and whatnot. um I probably should have put painting tape on the bottom because I didn't want to etch the bottom of it. Something else, this is permanent on glass. So if a little spot gets somewhere else, it will etch it. So if you don't want any etching cream on a specific spot, so like if my hand goes in here and I'm twirling it around down there, that's gonna get etched. So that was probably should do this. So I'm gonna put this on, and then you can actually scrape off the excess and keep and put it back in the bottle because you can reuse this stuff. Now, Molly or anyone else, have you ever used the Rub and Buff gold, this stuff? And I'm just gonna move it around a little bit. So I took off like the bulk of it. The gold part, I don't necessarily have to do. I do think this will be pretty without the gold. So I'll just take this off. But you can, if you wanted to add the gold, I mean, you saw what it looks like on the other one.
And that's something that you would do before you take the vinyl off normally?
Yes. I would put the gold on next. Oh, that's not the right one for her, but that's okay. I like to put the gold on next so that it stays within the same like pattern, and then you have like crisper lines. You can put the gold on after, however, it's just not as like bold. So it really depends on what kind of vibe you're going for. Okay, so I do think this will actually turn out. I've never done the darker bottle. I think this will actually turn out really nice. Darn it. I got most of it. Okay. So now the vinyl will come. Oh, you're not going to see it right away. All right, hold on. It will be harder to see with it being wet. But we'll see if I can dry it. Oh, this looks cool. It's just a little frosted. See it? That looks so cool.
That looks great. I know we're running out of time. I wanted to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Is this something that you came up with, or were you just like, did you see some inspiration somewhere, or how did you come to make these?
They are like online. I see them with like wine bottles people have done with them with, but I started doing them with like the kombucha and like kind of experimenting with different bottles. I haven't seen them necessarily done with like a kombucha bottle or like this is from a coffee thing with like different bottles. I've only seen the wine ones. And then as far as the etching and like the designing of it, also not really something that I've seen like on one of these, like a planter, self-watering planter or anything. I just kind of combined uh, different crafts and was like, let's make something cool.
I think they look great. I love how the design looks. Do you sell the work anywhere, or are you entirely doing it for yourself, giving them as gifts? Like, what do you do with all of the pieces?
So lately I've been giving them away, but I do eventually want to start selling them because I'd rather make a profit off of reusing something than creating more waste and whatnot. So yeah, I will eventually be probably on Etsy.
Trisha, should anyone look for you anywhere? If you like, do you have an Etsy shop? Any place that you want to send folks?
Not yet. I started an Etsy shop, but it's nowhere near like it needs some more work and whatnot. So stay tuned, I guess. There will probably be one.
All right. Well, with that, we'll wrap up and we'll have a video up in the community in the next couple of days so folks can watch the video that weren't able to come.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Bye.